Dave, welcome to the Hank House. This is the Hank Williams Memorial Pick and Parlor and also the world's smallest country music museum. Used to be my woodshed. I moved the wood outside. I made a music house out of it. So let's go in. I'll show you around. We do a couple things in here. I got a desk. I sit here and I write songs. We practice. If we got a gig someplace, we got a little band with 4 people. And so we'll be practicing later today. First, we're going to have just a little jam, and we do that in here once in a while. And a jam is just an informal little sit-down where we all play whatever we want and make our own mistakes and start over and whatever, just to do it for fun. If you want to take a look at, shall we start with this wall right here? If you take a look at this wall, Dave, we started this, I think I finished this in '06, and we had our first little jam in the winter of '06. And you can see why we call it the Hank House. We've got all those old pictures of Hank Williams Sr. up there. And everybody that's been a guest here has signed the wall. That happens to be one of the house rules that guests must register, and there's several others there, and they're mostly just for fun. We don't enforce them too strictly. But there's a lot of old albums up here of country music people, and some of them are autographed. I got several of Bill Anderson. I've met Bill Anderson several times and talked to him. I even gave him one of my CDs, and I'm waiting for him to call me to Nashville, but so far the phone hasn't rang. Bill, by the way, is the most published songwriter in Nashville. He's been writing songs for probably over 50 years and still doing it. Gene Watson got autographed pictures of him. I got an old boy right here, Mick O'Cowdery, and I thought there was another album. He made one with Marvin Rainwater years ago. Oh, right here. Mike Cowdery and Marvin Rainwater. And I used to play music with Mike. He lives in Osakis, Minnesota, and when I lived in Alexandria, I played with him a lot. Got Tommy Cash autographed, Mo Bandy. This gal is a Minnesota girl from northwestern Minnesota. She came here one time and sat down and played with us. And some of my old has-been guitars up here. I don't know if you can see this one up here, but you can about guess what kind of music that plays. Mike Cowdery, the guy that made that album there with Marvin Rainwater, used to play with him. This was an event that Mike put together called the Grand Ole Uproar. And this was taken down at my house several years ago. And there's Mike Cowdery, myself, another guy, Butchie Daly, that the 3 of us used to play together and had a great time. You may remember Carolyn Cooper. She was my secretary at the sheriff's office, and this is a picture of Carolyn, and she was a wonderful musician. Played the auto harp, played a lot of the old Carter music, and unfortunately she's gone, but we'll always remember her music. Okay, well, continue on. You can see why we call it the world's smallest museum. It's a little crowded in here, Dave. But I've been down to Memphis a couple times and visited Sun Studio, which is a really neat place because that's where Elvis and Johnny Cash and Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins all started, as well as others. And this is what they call the $1 Million Quartet right here, and the 4 of them were in the studio. We're going to get to another friend of mine, Narvel Feltz, and we'll talk about him a little later. But when Narvel was 17 years old, he went to Sun Studio to record his first song. And who was in there but Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley and Conway Twitty. And he told me, he says, for a 17-year-old boy off the farm, that was pretty exciting. Yes. What else we got? Riders in the Sky. We went to see them, and here's a little thing with some local groups, the Stringfields from over by and we've played music with them. This happened to be a church picnic, And then we kind of do a lot of the community stuff, nursing homes, community events, church picnics, things like that. We haven't really been playing at bars or anything like that. I don't know if you can see this, the Jimmy Driftwood barn. Jimmy Driftwood was an old country folk singer, and he wrote hundreds and hundreds of songs. And he lived in Mountain View, Arkansas. And I've been down to Mountain View a couple times. The first time I went, I saw a sign that says Gospel Jam, pointing to a church. I drove in there, they were just going in, and I asked somebody, is it okay if I join in? And I said, sure, okay, man. Had just a fun time that evening playing gospel music. And it just so happens that the lady who owns the Jimmy Driftwood barn, or the Jimmy Driftwood Theater, was there. And she says, what are you doing tomorrow night? And I said, no plans. Come on down to the Jimmy Driftwood Theater and I'll get you on stage. And my second night in Mountain View, I had the chance to play on stage at Jimmy Driftwood barn.
What year was this?
That was only 2 years ago.
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
Jimmy Driftwood is gone, but this lady owns the theater now. And so that was just a fun time.
Oh, so.
Yeah. And other pictures, Jan Howard, she's from Missouri. I have a cabin in Missouri, in southeastern Missouri, so I've had a chance to kind of associate with some of the folks down there and play music down there. Porter Wagner was from West Plains, Missouri. Jan Howard was from West Plains. Ferlin Husky was from Missouri. I don't remember what town. Narvel Feltz lives in Malden, Missouri, which is not too far from my cabin. And you can see there's other memorabilia we've got. We've been down to Nashville and we've been to Memphis a few times. And they're different, but they're both really fun. Memphis is a neat place. You got Graceland where Elvis lived. You got Sun Studio where a lot of people recorded. But you go downtown on a Friday or Saturday night, playing music everywhere on the street. A lot of the blues and some country music, and it's just a great time. And the whole town smells like barbecue. So if you like the blues and barbecue, that's the place to go. If you see this, there's two things right here. There's a daisy right there, and there's a gravy mix. The significance of that is that I wrote a song one time that really makes not much sense, but it's called A Daisy in Your Gravy. And it's about this poor guy in the restaurant that falls in love with the waitress, and he's waiting for a sign from her that she might love him too, and he asks her to put a daisy in his gravy. Like I say, I told Carolyn when I was writing that song, I said, I'm writing this new song, it's called A Daisy in My Gravy. She said, what kind of a dumb song is that? But you know what? It's become kind of popular among, people that have heard it. And so my friends gave me this gravy mix with the daisy. Beside it is a wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill, which happens to be an old Johnny Cash song that wasn't really all that popular, but it's a neat song, and it's about this guy, and all he's got left in the world is this wrinkled, crinkled, wadded dollar bill. And that's the significance of that. Dave, this is kind of a neat thing, this hat right here. It's signed by Jet Williams, who is the daughter of Hank Williams Sr. It's also signed by Porter Wagner. And I picked that up in Wisconsin in a little secondhand shop. And the lady that was running the shop, I said, are those authentic? Have you authenticated those things so you know they're real? And she said no. So, I negotiated price and I got the hat for, I think, $12. But it had a button up here for a music festival, so I came home and got on the internet. And sure enough, those two were on the schedule for that particular festival. Well, you can also look up samples of their autographs or their signatures on the internet, and they're identical, so I know that they're right. So that's kind of a neat thing that I got. This is one of the remaining hats from the Wingerding 1987. We used to have a little music festival picnic every summer called the Wingerding, and we started out first time, must have been, I don't know, early 80s, with about 15 people. And the last time we did it, it got so big, we finally gave it up. But we had a good time. We sold hats. We roast a hog. We raffled off a goat one time. Now, there's a secret to raffling off a goat, and I'll let you know what it is. Because when you ask somebody if they want to buy a raffle ticket on the goat, nobody does until you tell them you cannot use your name, you have to use someone else's. And as soon as you tell that, they'll buy several tickets. So we had a good time doing that. There's an old taillight that I found laying in the dump, and I wired it up so it actually lights up. Here's a autographed hat from Trace Atkins when he was here in Bemidji. Got to meet him, and those others are hats that I've just picked up here and there. One from Gillies. Wife and I were down at Gillies, and to that big nightclub. That was really neat to see. John Anderson happened to be there singing at that time. And so I guess we can continue on along the wall. One thing about this place, you never know what you're going to find in here. Here's my flower vase. Just happened to be somebody's leg, and I don't even know where it came from, but it ended up here. Chainsaw, Norwegian briefcase.
What's a Norwegian briefcase? That's a Norwegian.
That's a Norwegian briefcase.
Nice and small.
You'll haul your briefs in it. I don't know if that's politically correct, but I think we'll get by with that one. I sit and write some songs here. I've got about 100 songs that I've written that kind of play with, and out of 100, there's probably 15 or 20 that I think are good. But it's fun to do, and kind of an interesting little hobby. Some different things. This might be a music museum, but there's some fishing stuff and there's some law enforcement stuff in here. If you ever saw the movie Deliverance, that's where that comes from. A couple little signs. I would expect many of our viewers are going to know Parker Bruns. Parker Bruns his folks live right down the road from me. And Parker's a young man with Down syndrome. And he's a good friend of mine. He loves music, and he'll come over here sometimes, or he'll go with me to a music event. And this is Parker dressed up. I think he was in a Mexican restaurant when this picture was taken, but he's one of my buddies. This one here was taken a while ago. That's when I had some hair, and it was pretty dark. And I've been told many times that they can't tell if that's me or Jack Nicholson. Willie Nelson for president. There's Parker with a fish. He's also one of my fishing buddies. Yeah, a lot of people know Parker. And as you can see, we'll let anybody in here.
I thought I was just going to ask about that.
Even the Swedes are welcome in here. Let's move around. This is a model old-time jail that Harvey Newby made for me. I cut all that wood and glued it all together, and it's pretty neat. And it's hard to see the sign, but it says Beltrami County Jail up there on that little sign. Okay. You can see I got some pictures of Narvel Feltz over there. He was quite a popular singer in the 70s. Forget it. Come on, John. We'll start over.
No, it has some splice to fix.
Okay. Anyway, I was talking about Narvel Feltz. He lives in Malden, Missouri, and my cabin is in Piedmont, Missouri. They're not too far apart. And I kind of met him by accident. I was at a little gun shop in Malden talking to a guy, and I says, "Doesn't Narvel Feltz live down here?" And he says, "Yeah." And I ended up visiting with Narvel's daughter, and talked to her about, he was gone at the time doing a show someplace. And I got home and I got a letter from him, which I thought was pretty neat. And then I'm driving back from our resort one day and my cell phone rings and, Keith, this is Norval Phelps down in Missouri. I thought maybe you're down here. And I said, no, I'm not. But anyway, we kind of became friends, and he came and did a show up here at the Midwest Theater. And
Where's that?
that's in, what town is that in?
Not in the Midget, Race
Yeah.
Lake.
No, not Rice Lake. It's no.
Someplace in Minnesota.
It's close to Moose Lake, but it's
Oh,
anyway.
someplace in Minnesota.
Yeah. And so anyway, I went over there and spent some time with him, watched the show, and we just got acquainted, and we'll talk once in a while on the phone when I go down to Missouri and give him a call. And one thing we've got in common is that I've had the chance to go to Sweden 3 times and play some music over there, and he played a lot of European stuff. Shows over there in Norway and Sweden and Finland and England. So it's just been fun. And in those 2 pictures, one is when he was like 20 years old, and the other one is kind of probably about 5 years ago. He's pretty white right now on the top of the head, but I tell you, he's 75 years old, and that man can still rock. He's got a voice that you just won't believe. Okay, I got a picture there of the cast from Larry's Country Diner, which is on TV on a regular basis, and I was able to see that show down in Branson when I was down there, and got all the cast to sign it. Jimmy Capps, who plays the sheriff on that show, has been playing guitar in Nashville since he was about 15 years old, and has played for practically every big country star there is. I visited with Jimmy Capps, and since he plays a sheriff, I asked him if he'd be interested in coming up and playing for the Minnesota Sheriff's Conference. And he was very interested in doing it, but they always tape their shows in December, and that's when the conference, and he wasn't too crazy about coming to Minnesota in December anyway. So we haven't been able to put it together, but we're still kind of hoping that maybe someday we could do that. This photo of Johnny Cash here, my son was in the Air Force in New Mexico, and there was a guy at the mall that was drawing these things with pencil and charcoal, and he gave me that for Christmas one year, and I think it's a remarkable picture. I mean, it is so good. And the other one here is kind of an amateur one. My little grandniece drew that, and she was pretty young when she drew that. And it's also a picture of Johnny Cash. A couple old relics hanging here that have seen their better days.
No strings.
No strings. There's a picture of our band, which consists of Tom Lyons, John and Cindy Kingsbury, and myself. We were playing for the Ride for the Troops one year, and we had a couple of the Vikings cheerleaders graced us with their presence in that picture. Right? That's where I was playing with David Wongberg and Parker Bruns one time when we had a little something going on. And these are just kind of photos of some of the people I play with and I jam with, and some of our friends. This one here is Elf Jensen and Knut, and they're from Sweden. And Elf is married to my cousin in Sweden, and they're both musicians, so I did a lot of playing with those guys when I was over there. We had a good time.
What's the MGM record up there?
Yeah, this is kind of a neat thing. It's an old Hank Williams 45, Lovesick Blues. And when Hank Williams played the Lovesick Blues for the first time on the Grand Ole Opry, he did 6 encores. The crowd went nuts, and they kept calling him back and calling him back.
Same song or?
Same song. 6 times they.
That record there.
Yeah.
What's the name of it again?
Lovesick Blues.
Okay.
Got a hornet in here. I'm going to kill him. Yeah, this is the Presley Group from Branson, Missouri, and I got a really neat story about him. I took Parker Bruns with me down to Missouri, And we went to Branson and we went to the Presley show. And we had front row seats. Parker is hooting and hollering and cheering and having a great time. And when they had their little intermission in the middle of the show, I think it's Gary Presley, who's kind of the leader of their group, came down and he said, when we end the show, he said, you wait for me. And so we waited, and when the show was over, they got Parker up on the stage. He gave him his fancy jacket. Parker put it on. They were taking pictures. All the pretty girls gathered around and hugged him and took pictures. And they were so nice to Parker. It was just wonderful.
That's
And
the picture there?
this is their group. But I was so impressed the way they treated him. It was really a neat thing. We're just going to have a little jam this afternoon for a couple hours. This is John and Cindy and No Show Joan, who showed up today. And all we're going to do is just play some songs for fun. And later on, Tom Lyons is going to join us. We're going to rehearse a little bit because we have a gig on Tuesday night down at Minnesota Nice Cafe. We're going to play down there Tuesday evening. But for now, we're just going to play for fun.
Find your spot.
I will. You want to get rid of this?
Find your spot.
Okay. I'll see if they'll let me. Are you guys all hooked up?
No.
No.
Can I use this cable for my headphone, or are you gonna use this over
Yeah.
there?
Oh, you can.
Whoops, it's on, hang on. Test.
Oh, no wonder. You don't have a volume on that, do you?
No, no.
Okay.
No, you have to control.
Give me more tests then.
More test. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Okay.
Huh?
Joan, do your...
Testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. Testing, testing. Is that good?
I think so.
Okay.
You girls can... Let's just do jambalaya and you girls sing with me on the chorus, how about? And John will give you a break or two and we can check on the volume. Give a... Goodbye, Joe, me gotta go, me oh my. Me gotta go, pull the pier down the fire. Ivan, sweetest one of me, oh my. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Jambalaya, crawfish pie, fillet gumbo. 'Cause tonight I'm gonna see Mama Shenandoah. Pick guitar, fill fruit jar, and be kiddo. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Thibodeau's, Fontenot's, the place is buzzing. Kinfolk come, save on by the dozen. Dress in style, go hog wild, oh me oh my. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Jambalaya, rockfish pie, fillet gumbo. 'Cause tonight I'm gonna see Mama Shenandoah. Pick guitar, fill fruit jar, and be gay. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Johnny. Settle down far from town, get me a beer, and I'll catch a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Jumbo like rockfish pie, Billy gumbo. And tonight gonna see Mama Sharon Leo. Pick guitar, fiddle, fruit jar, and be gay. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. Son of a gun, we'll have big fun on the bayou. What do you think?
Ready, Joe?
That one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Charlie. You left me for the bright lights of the town. A country boy set out to see the world. Remember when those neon lights shine down? That big old moon shined on your Kentucky girl. I swear I love you by the moon above you. How bright is it shining in your world? Some mornings when you wake up all alone, just come on home to your new Kentucky girl. Some mornings when you wake up all alone, just come on home to your blue Kentucky girl. Don't wait to bring great riches home to me. I mean no diamond rings or fancy pearls. Just bring yourself, you're all I'll ever need. That's good enough for this blue Kentucky girl. I swear I love you by the moon above you. How bright is it shining in your world? Some mornings when you wake up all alone, just come on home to your blue Kentucky girl. Just come on home to your blue Kentucky girl.
Very good, very good. Why don't you explain today what you're playing?
Oh, this is a electric bass, and it's a J Tertier bass. It's a little fiddle bass, and it's just small and light, and I really like it. I've got another big one at home, but it's just too big to carry
And she
around.
keeps us in time with that thing.
I try to. It's fun. It's fun playing it.
And as long as they're doing that, John's got an interesting story about his instrument. Why don't you tell them about it and then play us a tune on it?
Well, this is kind of a one-of-a-kind. I built this, designed it myself. Call it the Electra Slide with the chickadee up on the top. But I had played the dobro, had problems miking that, played a lap steel, which is just a little short critter. And anyway, never was happy with either one of them, so I ended up just designing my own. This one is what Keith calls the Buick. It weighs about 30 pounds plus, but it's basically a lap steel, I guess is what I would call it.
Give us a tune, Johnny.
Okay, should we do a little steel guitar ready? G, chord G. fever.
Yeah.
Can we start that over?
Pretend Dave's invisible.
Keep going. Shortened version.
There we go.
This is a song I wrote. It's in the key of E.
Is that the same E as yours?
I hope so. This is a short little song. Most of my songs are pretty short. Couldn't make bail, so I went to jail for holding up a liquor store. Don't need a drink that bad since then, so I guess I won't drink no more. The judge said, son, your drinking's done. You'll get 5 years for your freedom's won. It's way past time to give up that booze. Look what your drinking's made you lose. Couldn't make bail, so I went to jail for holding up a liquor store. Don't need a drink that bad since then, so I guess I won't drink no more. Well, I guess I just won't drink no more. Wish I had decided to do that before. Now I sit in jail without a friend, and my sentence seems to have no end. Couldn't make bail, so I went to jail for holding up a liquor store. Don't need a drink that bad since then, so I guess I won't drink no more. So I guess I won't drink no more. So I guess I won't drink no
Cute song.
I was just going to explain to you
You got it back.
a little bit what a jam is, just in case, because when you sit at a jam, you never know what anybody's going to play. You may have never heard the song before, and usually most musicians can pick up on it and play along. If you can't, you'll see them just sitting out. And it's not like a rehearsal or a gig where you know what you're going to play or you know what the next person's going to play. So
Yeah, you
there's
for sure never
unexpected
heard
things
that.
happen at a jam, right?
Yeah, you never heard that
Yeah.
song before.
Yeah.
We were at a jam down in Texas, and this gal got up and she says, well, since this is a jam, she says, I'm gonna do this in the chord of C, but you all just do it in whatever chord you feel like. Sometimes that's kind of what happens.
That's right. So anyway, let's do this. This is a homemade song. It's one I wrote. It's a waltz played in A, and it's in A. Parts of this are true. A lady asked me one time to play a waltz in the key of A. She didn't care what it was, but so anyway. We were playing at an old country hall, and the folks there were having a ball. I saw a lady come walking my way, and she asked for a waltz played in A. It reminds me again a waltz played in A. And they'll dance to a waltz played in A. There we go.
Nice song.
Thank you.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's a really good song.
Like I say, I can play a waltz, I just can't waltz.
Have you tried waltzing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I heard her.
Yeah.
She said, I'll never dance with you again, she said.
Well, let's do early.
Got your mic up.
And
Huh? Oh, my mic.
is that in C or what?
Yeah, that one's in Charlie.
I like to kind of bother you with the harmonica a little bit, especially since it's just informal.
That's right. Okay. Early one morning, I walked out alone. I looked down the street, no one's around, and the sun was just coming up over my home on Hickory Street, on a little farm town. Ooh, ain't the morning light pretty, while the dew is still heavy, so bright and so early. My home on the range, it's a one-horse town, but it's alright with me. Now the plow broke the prairie gave plenty. The little old town blossomed, soon there were many, scattered like fireflies across the dark night. And one was called Mary, they sure named it right. Ooh, ain't the morning light pretty, while the dew is still heavy, so bright and so early. My home on the range, it's a one-horse town, but it's alright with me. Keith? Now many dry summers have burnt all the fields, scorched the fine colors, and cut back the yields. But the rains have returned to wash away our tears. It's the fullest green summer that we've seen in years. Ooh, ain't the morning light pretty, while the dew is still heavy, so bright and so early. My home on the range, it's a one-horse town, but it's alright with me.
Nice song,
That
Cindy.
is a pretty song.
You guys warm in here?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this song's In Love with the Rodeo Man, and it's in the key of George.
And this is one you wrote, Joe?
No, I sang that one song, I wrote the rest.
This is on an iPad?
Yes,
You just call up the songs on your iPad and
yeah.
What do the little green dots mean?
That's the chords. It's just so I can see them easier.
Okay.
You want to tell them even country music's going down the tubes?
It is. I lost one of my good songs because it's not on here. I have no idea how I deleted it. She's a barmaid in a West Texas dance hall. Wait a minute.
We should probably actually do this in a waltz
Three,
time.
3/4 times. I messed
And
it
it's
up
in G,
already.
right?
Yeah.
You can cut that part out, right?
No, this is part of the fun.
She's a barmaid in a West Texas dance hall. She's there every night till they close. The cowboys pay for the jukebox, and she plays San Antonio Rose. Well, I know her life ain't been easy. Lord, the lines in her face show it all. But she still is a beautiful lady in the lights of the Texas dance hall. But she won't sit down at your table, and I know you can't hold her hand. She won't go home with you, cowboy. She's in love with the rodeo man. Can you play it, John? Well, he's hard and he's scarred and he's graying, and he's drunk most all of the time, and he sits at a dark corner table, and he waits there until closing time. But she won't sit down at your table, and I know you can't hold her hand. She won't go home with you, cowboy. She's in love with the rodeo man. She's in love with the rodeo man.
Good song.
Thank you.
Okay, girls.
That's one of our favorites.
You're going to help me with this one. We're going to rock with Hank Williams right now. Johnny, you can do a couple breaks on it. Well, if the wife and I are fussing, baby, that's alright. Me and that woman got a license to fight. Why don't you mind your own business?
Mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
And if you mind your business, you want to be a minding mine. Well, I got a little gal and her eyes are blue. Guys, they whistle when she comes through. Just mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
Hey, mind your own business, girls.
Mind your own business.
And if you mind your business, you want to be a minding mine. Johnny. Well, if I'm honky tonkin' till 2 or 3, brother, that's my headache. Don't put you mind your business, you won't be minding mine. Well, a woman on the party line's a nosy old thing. She picks up the receiver, she knows it's my ring. I wish she'd mind her own business.
Mind your own business.
Hey, mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
And if you mind your business, you won't be minding mine. Do it again, Johnny. Minding other people's business seem to be high tone. I got all I can do of minding my own. So mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
Hey, mind your own business.
Mind your own
And
business.
if you mind your business, you won't be minding mine. And if you mind your business, you won't be a minding mine. Hey, good advice, huh?
That's right.
And somebody is supposed to ask me at this point, what's the name of that song?
What's
Yeah,
the name
what's
of
the name of
that?
that song?
Mind your own business. Dale always does.
Dale's predictable.
Yeah, he is. In other ways, too.
Want to do for the first time?
Sure. The good old Gene Watson song.
E.
Joan's favorite key.
Yes. For the first time in a long time, I want the sunshine to shine on me. I want those hillsides to feel me walking, and I want your love all over me. 10 years ago, I guess you know, I gave my heart and my hand, but he left me here to grieve but never know. My days have been like that, my nights have been long days, but when I saw you, I knew I'd love again. For the first time in
How long have you guys been married? You're still singing love songs to each other.
Isn't it amazing?
That's nice.
30, 40 years, depending on which day it is. Sometimes it seems like a year ago, sometimes it seems like 100 years ago.
Kind of like my old uncle when I asked him how old he was. He said somewhere around 92. He couldn't remember, but.
People steal, they cheat and lie for wealth and what it will buy. But don't they know on the judgment day all the gold and silver will melt away? I'd rather be in a deep dark grave and know that my poor soul was saved than to live in this world in a house of gold and deny my God and doom my soul. Can you play it, Keith? What good is gold and silver too if your heart's not good and true? Sinner, hear me when I say, fall down on your knees and pray, for I'd rather be in a deep dark grave and know that my poor soul was saved than to live in this world in a house of gold and deny my God and do my soul than to live in this world in a house of gold and deny my God and do my soul.
Oh, good job, Joe.
Thank you.
I think we talked about the daisy and the gravy mix up there. I'm gonna do that song for you. It's called "Daisy in My Gravy." It's about this poor boy that fell in love with a waitress. Didn't know what to do. I wrote it about John and me and almost every other guy in the world. You may. Put a daisy in my gravy if you wanna be my girl. Rearrange my mashed potatoes and add a little swirl of cream to my coffee. Sugar on the side. Put a daisy in my gravy if you wanna be my bride. I love you, little darling, but you gotta show a sign. Don't have time for talking when I'm sitting here to dine. Put a daisy in my gravy and a heart-shaped little swirl of cream in my coffee if you wanna be my girl. How about it, Johnny? smell I love you, stay with me tonight. Put a pat of butter and put it in my hand. Put a daisy in my gravy and I'll be your loving man. Put a daisy in my gravy if you wanna be my girl. Rearrange my mashed potatoes and add a little swirl. Cream to my coffee, sugar on the side. Put a daisy in my gravy, I'll be your love. I won't put a daisy in my gravy if you wanna be my bride. There's one with mistakes in it. So, people will know we're not perfect. 'Cause I don't want to be your bride.
Too far. Huh? Okay, I want to do Lonesome Whippoorwill.
Will you give me a break?
Yeah, you can have the second break. He'll do the intro. You can do the second break, and then he'll end with it.
I gotta
Okay.
pull out a
And you are in what, G?
A.
A.
I like this song because the slide there just is so pretty with it.
Not only that, but it's a Hank Williams song.
That's right.
And Hank didn't write it as a song, you know that? He wrote it as a poem.
Really?
And then somebody else said, you need to put that to music.
Really? Yeah, that is a beautiful. It's a beautiful
didn't know
song.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You didn't know Hank was a poet.
No. All right.
Hear that lonesome whippoorwill. He sounds too blue to fly. The midnight train is running low. I'm so lonesome I could cry. I've never seen a night so long when time goes crawling by. The moon just went behind a cloud to hide his face and cry. Okay, Keith.
nice song. Isn't that something?
That's a beautiful song.
Elvis Presley said it was the saddest song he had ever sung.
Yeah.
But you know, what I
Sad.
like about that song is the words of the last verse. When you think about that, the silence of a falling star
Yeah.
lights up a, but have you ever watched a falling star? And it looks like it should be making noise, and it is
Yeah.
just totally quiet.
Yeah.
They're roaring through the sky.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
Great words.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we had a great time here with our little jam session and videotaping it. We're going to wind this up with a song that I wrote called Old Pickup Trucks. And it's about 99% true. So, give boys and girls. Well, I just bought a pickup truck and it cost me $30. When I drive it around our town, folks say, holy cow. But I'm always thinking back, though, to an older time, 'cause those old-fashioned pickup trucks were favorites of mine. Well, I drove Fords and Chevys, had a Studebaker too. I had an International, the fenders rusted through. There's something that old pickup trucks make you feel just fine. My favorite was that old Dodge, made in 49. Johnny, take it. Well, the first date that I ever had with a sweet little country girl, I pulled up in my pickup truck, set her heart a-whirl. If I had a golden chariot, team of horses fine, I couldn't have done no better than that old truck of mine. I drove Fords and Chevys, had a Studebaker too. I had an International till the engine blew. There's something about old pickup trucks make you feel just fine. My favorite was that old Dodge, made in 49. You could open up the windshield and let the air blow through. That was the air conditioning, it always kept you cool. Rattled and it smoked and it rode a little rough, but it got me where I was going, and that was good enough. Well, I had Fords and Chevys, had a Studebaker too. I had an International, the fenders rusted through. There's something about old pickup trucks make you feel just fine. My favorite was that old Dodge, made in 49. My favorite was that old Dodge, made in 49. And there we go, that's our jam session. I hope everybody enjoys it, and maybe we'll see you around, maybe at the county fair or someplace else.
Bye.
Bye. Hillbilly music at its best.
That's right.